We've got 5 excellent wireless earbuds flirting with the $99 mark.
We're pitting the SoundCore Liberty 4 NC against Sony, Samsung, JBL, and Jabra. Sound, ANC, calls, features.
We'll go through it all and stay tuned till the end for our picks.
Goedendag, we're DHRME, doing headphone reviews most excellently.
Let's start with the headliner, the Liberty 4 NC from SoundCore. The number of features at this price point is very impressive. You're getting things like wireless charging, an in-ear sensor to automatically play and pause your audio, and also multi-point support. You can rock that multi-device life with no problems. There's also a device list in the app. Oh, and speaking of the app, it's really packed. A fully fledged app with an EQ, controls customization, and the ability to tweak noise cancelling.
And that noise cancelling is nothing to scoff at. In our DHRME noise cancelling test where we rank the ANC from tier S to tier E, the Liberty 4 NC came in at tier A, in the same league as the likes of the Sony WF-1000XM4 and the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. And what shocked us the most, in a pleasant way, were the battery life numbers. We initially thought the advertised 8 hours with ANC on was too good to be true, but when we got 10 hours with ANC on and with the AAC codec, we were amazed. The stem style design with touch-sensitive stems may seem ordinary, but the case definitely isn't. That big button opens the case but also functions as the pairing button. And there's more, it also functions as the battery LED. The length and strength of the LED signifies the battery levels, very handy for those of us impaired in the colors department. But if you still appreciate colors, then the Liberty 4 NC comes in 5 different colors.
Then there's sound. What can you say about the SoundCore Liberty 4 NC that hasn't been said already? Well, first off, LDAC, 22 EQ presets, a 10-band EQ, a hearing test.
What, you wanted more?
On AAC, these were also the loudest sounding buds on this list if you want to get into hearing damage territory. Oh, and speaking of hearing damage, these have a safe volume limiter functionality in the app that we instantly enabled. Gotta protect these precious ears from rogue audio sources.
Now, out of the box, these are bassy as hell. But again, with all that choice, you can tame that bass. Actually, I'm a bit lazy, so I just selected the flat EQ preset and was done with it. What's not great, except the stock tuning? Well, I think the treble is a bit on the quiet side. And boosting the treble didn't seem to really help that cause. This seems to be a driver limitation. And another downside was that Hear ID didn't really help and in fact ended up making the overall sound bassier and more bloated. Hear ID is actually maybe too smart for its own good. It only detects your hearing deficiencies, but also takes into account your preferences.
Now, we don't have any Sennheiser buds on this list, and we are working on a premium wireless buds video, so stay subscribed for that. But what Sennheiser does in its hearing test is that it uses your own music and checks your preferences, whereas SoundCore plays some random pop song you've never heard of and then tunes your preferences. That's probably what's leading to a skewed result. But just to be clear here, we are nitpicking. We think these are perfectly good sounding earbuds with capable drivers, but there are also things that aren't so perfectly good about the Liberty 4 NC, the biggest of which are the microphones. Here, have a listen first.
Pump, pump, popsicle. Ice, ice, icicle. Test, test, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Now, these samples are one thing, but real-life testing is equally important. Rohan and I have done many calls where both of us were using the Liberty 4 NCs, and I've personally used them for Teams calls and personal calls. I've only received negative feedback from all of them. It happened more often with me than with Rohan. We thought it might be a defective sample, so after cracking open a new pair, we saw the same again. Our theory? 1, I'm a softer speaker and the Liberty 4 NC has a higher threshold. And 2, the noise reduction of the buds kills certain frequencies in my voice. This meant when I was speaking softly, mumbling a little, or there were other background noises, people had a really hard time hearing me. We're seriously hoping SoundCore can do something about this with a firmware update, but we've got to call it out as it is now. And on the topic of calls, we like that you get volume controls. Unfortunately though, they only work for audio and not for calls. A shame for those of us who make a lot of phone calls.
The way you control these buds is with a touch sensor. You can customize them up to a certain extent in the app. The gripe we have with touch controls is that they can be hit or miss depending on where you tap. If you miss the exact sweet spot, then it won't be happy. That's what she said. Luckily, you do hear a beep if you've successfully touched the sensor. Overall, it's not a favorite implementation of control, but it is something you can get used to. Then there's the transparency or ambient mode. How close these buds get to the feeling of not wearing them at all. We rank them at tier C. Not great, but not the worst either. Just okay in a pinch. Although most frequencies are let in, the overall volume of the ambient sound is lacking. So who's the SoundCore Liberty for ANC for? Well, it's for someone who wants solid ANC, a very customizable sound experience, and great battery life.
In the last 5 years, Sony's true wireless earbuds have filled almost every price gap on the market, and the $99 price point is no exception. The best part about the WF-C700N, yes, that's its real name, is that the sound is pretty decent, and these are the bassiest of the Sony buds when it comes to mid-bass. Of course, you also get that powerful Sony Headphones Connect app, and that means you get a 5-band EQ and a clear bass slider. Sony's just nailed microphones on its products since the Sony Link Buds, and the WF-C700Ns are no exception. Crystal clear, and if you don't believe me, believe this guy.
Pop, pop, popsicle. Ice, ice, icicle. Test, test, testing. 1, 2, 3.
There's also good news on the physical side with the big ballsy buttons on the buds that are impossible to miss. These buttons won't get confused with gloves or wet hands unlike many touch surfaces. We also like the fittage in our ears, and their IPX4 can help with the fittage of our bodies, because when you work out, you get fit. In terms of transparency, these are right up there at tier A. Rounding out the positives, a battery life of 8 hours on SBC and 7 hours on AAC is very respectable.
Now, physical buttons are great in theory, but we had 2 issues with these. A small number of false taps, and on an older model, we noticed that one of the buttons has reduced travel after a few months of use. So we're not entirely convinced about the quality of these buttons. And while the battery life on the buds is great, the case only holds 3 charges. And speaking of that case, it's kind of cylindrical and not as flat and compact as a bunch of others on this list. There's also no wireless charging on board the case.
And while the transparency is good, there's significant amount of white noise here, almost like an air conditioner is running in a quiet room. The biggest corner that has been cut on these buds is the ANC. We thought it was pretty weak sauce at tier C. So all those ANC features that Sony offers in its app are kind of useless. And there's white noise here as well. And now talking about the ANC itself, not even the low end was reliably cancelled out, something even budget buds can do easily these days. Sony's controls are also a bummer, and this applies to all their earbuds. You have to choose between 2 out of the following 3: volume controls, ANC, and media control. Why, Sony? Why? I want it all. And while these sound good, we also found that these were a bit boring at lower volumes. Crank them up though, and you'll get a more enjoyable listening experience with the sound really opening up.
Overall, these are fine for sound, but didn't blow us away. While pop and bass heavy tracks might not be the WF-C700N's forte, they handle jazz surprisingly well, albeit with a less spacious soundstage. The treble isn't the airiest, but it's serviceable. And there's some resolution loss because codec-wise, you're limited to SBC and AAC. Who are these buds for? If you're someone who's looking for Sony's calling and audio chops, but at a lower price.
What if I told you that you could buy the AirPods Pro for $99? Pretty interesting, huh? Okay, you can't buy that, but we're not scammers. Don't worry about it. But you can buy the next best thing, which is the JBL Live Pro 2. And you know what? We say that these are the next best thing because they remind us so much of the AirPods Pro, especially the comfortable fit and the shallow insertion style. And a la the AirPods Gen 1, that active noise cancelling is also pretty effective. We put it in tier A. A for AirPods. We think that these might also be the most comfortable on this list, but don't quote us on that because your ear holes are different from our ear holes, and you should always test things on your own holes using the links in the description. That makes us money. The battery life is also solid, and in our DHRME battery test, we got 8.5 hours on SBC, which is pretty Amazon. Links in the description.
What's also very good are the phone calls.
Pop, pop, popsicle. Ice, icicle. Test, test, testing. 1, 2, 3.
JBL is from the eliminate all background noise school of thought, and it does a fairly good job at it. JBL is also doing some sort of adaptive thing with wind sounds where you notice wind in the beginning, but after a couple of seconds, there's a sudden ramp down of the wind, and the buds are trying to zero in on the voice. You also get a slider in the app to adjust how much you can hear your own voice, imaginatively called Voice Aware, and it works quite well. In terms of extra features, you're pretty much getting everything. Wireless charging, an in-ear sensor, but
let's talk sound, guys. Much like the SoundCore Liberty for NC, the JBL Live Pro 2s are also very bassy out of the box. And much like the flat EQ preset on the Liberties, these also have a studio EQ, but I actually ended up customizing the jazz preset to find that this EQ was the most pleasant to my ears. These buds, however, deliver solid bass while staying in control due to their 11mm drivers. However, the decay on the bass isn't quite as fast and accurate as some others we've tested. Having said that, this is absolutely recommended for you bass heads out there. On that EQ, it isn't a 10 band EQ, but a 10 point EQ. You can move the band a bit to the left or to the right to tweak a particular frequency. Others may offer smart features, but we prefer well done manual features, and that's the point for JBL in our books. Your EQ settings are carried over to the other devices, which is handy because these buds support multi-point for up to 2 devices at once.
Probably the biggest knock on the JBL Live Pro 2 sound is the codec selection. You're stuck with SBC and AAC. So yes, you'll miss a little bit of resolution, but otherwise we really like the JBL Live Pro 2 for sound. Okay, what's not to like about the Live Pro 2? Well, these didn't give us the most secure fit, so we wouldn't be wildly working out in these earbuds. Much like Sony, these also offer very limited controls, making you choose between volume, ANC, and media playback. The call controls on these are actually very good, albeit not customizable. Double tap to answer or hang up, and tap and hold to reject or mute and unmute. ANC is always disabled on calls, but unfortunately, due to the fixed nature of the call controls, you cannot change volume controls or ANC modes. Fuck man, semi-approved. Also, in terms of peak volume, these are the quietest on the list, even though they're plenty loud for us. That transparency is okay at tier B, but if it's very noisy, we would not use transparency. We just take them out because it tends to amplify the lower end rumble a bit more. Speech can become unintelligible with too much background noise. So who's the JBL Live Pro 2 for? Well, for someone who values comfort, ANC, and a good sound signature above all else.
The Jabra Elite 4 have some clear strengths and weaknesses, and we kind of like that these earbuds know who they are.
Okay, Dr. Sigmund Audio Freud, who are they?
Well, first off, we love Jabra's cases, at least this variant of the case. Sleek, portable, and pocketable. For products that are used on the go, size matters, guys. For on the go. The buds are also small, probably the smallest on this list, except that last one, which we'll come to soon. And despite this, these have the most IPs, 55 of them, dust and water resistant. The only ones on this list that can boast that. That, along with the reliable physical buttons and secure fit, make these our pick for workouts.
But how do they sound? Well, Jabra is one of those brands that's not given into the lure of the bass. And as such, you may or may not like how they sound. The bass is subdued, but that really lets the mids shine. These have excellent mids, and with aptX on board, you get decent resolution as well. Along with the Liberty 4 NC on AAC, these are also the loudest buds on this list.
And what about customization? Well, Jabra's solid app gives you a 5-band EQ as well as a handful of EQ presets in the box. They also feature multi-point, and in addition, these also have the most customizable controls. Wow, you can do everything with these physical buttons, whether it's playback, volume, or ANC, and it's FACMAN approved too with mute controls. Oh, and speaking of calls, here, listen to some samples.
Pop, pop, popsicle. Test, testing. 1, 2, 3.
The microphones do perform well in quieter conditions, and also with some noise, they're okay. We think Jabra's strength is that they have really powerful hardware, so they're able to boost the volume of the speaker. You can also enable side tone to hear yourself clearly. Alright, as we said, the Elite 4 have a clear personality. And here's the part of the personality that might cause you to break up with them. First off, there's nothing extra about their personality. No wireless charging, no in-ear sensor to automatically play or pause your music.
Calls in windy conditions, especially on the right earbud, are a bit of a challenge. But in regular conditions with the cars passing by, these sounded quite decent, and I would use them for phone calls. And wind in general is quite a challenge with these buds because we couldn't also hear much if we're biking with these in our ears. The audio is kind of interfered with by the wind noise. And speaking of noise and noise cancelling, these are fine. The tier B for ANC and for transparency as well. However, there's a fair bit of white noise in transparency mode. And with a small package comes lower durability. That's what she said. These are one of the lowest lasting buds on this list. Our test took it just north of 5 hours on aptX.
And yes, they have aptX for sound, but here's the thing. When we actually tried to boost the bass, it came off feeling less impactful than some of the other buds on this list. Especially the sub bass misses some of the rumble you get from the next buds on this list. If you're a seeker of sonic subtlety and not a bass boost believer, well, Jabra Cadabra, you found your brand. So who's the Jabra Elite 4? Well, for the active amongst you seeking pretty neutral sound on the go.
Then we've got the final buds that you can get for around $99. Although Samsung is known to swing a lot in their prices, the Galaxy Buds 2 was retailing for around $90 at the time of this video.
Use the links in the description.
The Buds 2 have the smallest case and we tend to gravitate towards them for their pocketability. That doesn't mean to say that the build quality feels cheap. Quite the opposite. Sturdy case and the buds feel well put together. No weird creaking or delicate hinges.
One of the best parts about the Buds 2 has got to be the comfort. We've even had a viewer tell us he uses it while wearing a helmet during his motorcycle rides. And that's also got a lot to do with the Tier A transparency mode on these buds. You're very much aware of your surroundings and you'll feel safe to be out and about while still listening to your tunes. The noise cancelling, although not top tier, still fares well at tier B. And that's not all, you're getting good touch controls with Samsung even managing to cram in volume controls along with a bunch of media controls all along this surface. You will need to activate the volume controls from the Labs options though. Because of the compact size and support for wireless charging, they make for a reasonable package. But did we think the microphones were reasonable too? Here, have a listen.
Pop, pop, popsicle. Ice, icicle. Testing.
Well, Samsung's buds are weird. It sounds like you're literally there with the person making the call. You hear everything. Now that could be a positive or a negative depending on where you are. There's not too much of this smart noise cancelling happening here. And what can we say about the Galaxy Buds 2 in terms of sound quality? Well, quite simply, if I just want to listen to music, especially at lower volumes, these are the best sounding buds on this list. Huh? Samsung? We hear you say. Why do you have that weird voice? Yes, Samsung. The difference is on just everything, from how well the sub bass is tuned to how open and airy the treble is. By far, for my kind of music, I'd reach for the Galaxy Buds 2 every time. But there are caveats.
First, these sound best with a Samsung phone since they use the Samsung scalable codec. Secondly, these are also the least customizable buds on this list and the only ones that lack a custom EQ. You can completely forget about things like hearing tests. The Buds 2 are the ones on this list with the least water resistance at IPX2. Now, that doesn't mean you can't work out with them, but if you're getting these closer to more liquid situations, then you'll need to exercise caution. Exercise caution. We hate to say it, but Samsung is in many ways the Apple of the Android world. The Galaxy Buds 2 have multi-point support, but only if you're using Samsung devices. But for the rest of us, there is at least pull connection. So you can just select the buds from a previously paired device and get connected without having to do the whole pairing dance.
And finally, depending on your battery needs, you may want to look at other options. The battery life is the lowest on this list with about 5 hours on the buds and an additional 20 hours from the case. And when it comes to calls, man, the calls in wind are weak sauce. So who's the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 for? For you Samsung heads or for those of you looking for the best sound in a tiny package at this price point? Speaking of tiny packages, Kevin, what's your pick?
At this price point, I'm really looking for buds that are versatile. Buds that I can just throw into my backpack or sling and use it on the go. Portability and comfort are important. Good call quality and the ability to quickly connect to multiple devices. ANC and transparency doesn't need to be top-notch, but decent. The Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 really fit the bill for me. They've got a small case footprint, are comfortable in the ear, do well on calls, and support pull connection. The pretty decent ANC and transparency is a great bonus too. And speaking of pretty decent, how's your pick looking, Rohan?
You know what? I would have chosen the SoundCore Liberty 4 NC. I still do when I'm indoors, but it's just one thing, that unreliability with calls. It just isn't worth it for me. And I want volume controls, comfort, decent calls, and ANC. So I have two candidates here. The Jabra Elite 4 and the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2. But the clincher for me is that I use a Samsung phone, and I've actually found the experimental volume controls where you tap on this part of your ear to work pretty decently. And given that the Buds 2 sound the best on this list, I'm gonna say I'm going with Samsung. Unless I'm going outside. In that case, I'll choose the Jabra or the JBL or the Sony for the wind calling. Well, this is kind of the point. All these buds are excellent.
Guys, we're trying to really up the game on the quality of our content. We want to make fewer but higher quality videos where we really test the products intensively. We test the battery, ANC, transparency, sound, microphones, everything on our own. And this takes a lot of time. YouTube's algorithm tends to reward speed over quality, so we're hoping you appreciate our hard work enough to become a YouTube member or patron. And for our members and patrons, we're giving away 8 Liberty 4 NCs since SoundCore sent us way too many. Check out this link for details and in the description.
You've got $99, but a bud ain't one.
And we've been DHRME.
Namaste.